Okay, so roll call, we have a quorum, we have Mr. Toomey who will chair, we have Brenda, we have Danielle, and Jocelyn, that's four for a quorum. First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the June 18th and July 16th meeting.
You can hear me. I'm trying to get my speakers working.
We can hear you.
Jamie, I can make a motion to approve those minutes unless Mike has any corrections to them.
Mr. Toomey, do you have?
No, no comments.
So, okay, so a motion, looking for a second?
Any discussion?
I'll second it.
Jocelyn or Danielle? Sorry.
That was Danielle.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. First item on the agenda is the enforcement order to the town of Linfield, and I see that Mr. McDonald is on, and also I did see Mr. McAllister. Who would like to go first?
I'm sorry. Jim, could you please mute your mic? It's creating a feedback loop for me. Thank you.
I guess I can start. Good evening, everyone. John McAllister, McAllister Engineering. So just following up this issue on the 8th of August, Patrick McDonald and I went out and visited the site where the dam was breached or the embankment was breached to just get an update of it. I think we had, Chris from my team had gone out earlier in July, and the conditions remain the same where the water level was kind of just around the invert of the pipe. So not much big change. It does look like someone has gone out and just kind of reinforced this how the pipe's sitting in there. So that I guess I'll show a photo so everyone can see it, just so it doesn't float away. I'm not sure. Let's see, share. Jamie, you allow me to share, please? Okay,
You should be all set.
And there we go. All right. So yeah, so this is just looking. This is on the upstream side where it was all the water was impounded, looking downstream. So you can kind of see someone had taken an old signpost and kind of wedged it at two places along the pipe, just again to keep it from floating off in case of high water. I'm not sure who did that, but it was a good idea. And there's some stone to keep in place. The one thing you'll see on this pipe is that there already is a decent amount of silt collecting inside of the pipe. So Patrick and I walked the site. We looked at it. We talked about a couple of different options. I'll let him, discuss that. I just will say that it is a complicated site. I guess it is. It's actually on private property. I did do a little digging after our meeting. It looks like there might be a conservation and drainage easement in there, but I'm not sure who has rights to access and do that work in that easement area. But the long and short of it is that it is just putting it back as it was is probably very short-sighted because we're going to be in the same situation as we were again last year. I think it's going to fill up pretty quickly. So I think there's some pretty reasonable modifications that could be made just to keep some of the siltation out, some of the debris from collecting in there. But that's it's not really for me to suggest. Again, putting it back right in place, I think, is just setting us up for problems again, repeated problems. So maybe making it easier to maintain and to keep some of the debris and the silt from getting into that pipe. So with that, I guess, Patrick, I'll pass it over to you if you want to kind of bring an update from your side.
Yeah, thank you, John. I apologize. I wasn't getting any audio on my computer, so I switched to a phone. So I apologize. I missed the first bit of your presentation. So I imagine you told him about our visit. I just heard you say that a solution wouldn't be just putting back the pipe because it's kind of inviting some other problems in the future. I would agree with that. And so let me give you an update of what I've done. So I'm still chasing down the drainage through Lookout Terrace in Linfield. The section of pipe that runs through number 10, the lower property, has a functioning system, and the water's flowing through it. Although when the floodwaters were high, it was a very low rate, so it didn't indicate to me that there was the water coming from the wetland area in question flowing through it. It was just kind of seeping. Now that the water has receded, it's really only the water that we would introduce through flushing with a Vector truck. But it is operational, and I am still trying to get on site to investigate the rest of the pipe that goes up towards the wetland through number 12 Lookout Terrace. So I'm still in that process. And until I really get into that property, it's kind of difficult for me to say what the solution might be. And I'm hoping that clearing this pipe through Lookout Terrace is going to take a lot of heat off this area in Lynn in terms of water. I still have a concern about having the water flow out of two outlets, until I know what the elevation of the invert is. Look at Terrace. It's hard for me to say. But if you don't mind, let me just show you. Oh, it looks like I'm getting it here. Okay, I apologize. It's only giving me one option to share my entire screen. Okay, so here it is. So if you can see this cursor, probably not very well. This area down in the south end of this map is the embankment where the pipe is. If I zoom in on this, you can see that this heavy red line with the blue outline is a 176 contour. And if I scroll here, you can see how that 176 is basically close to or near the top of the pathway that goes across. So if water is backed up at this pipe, which it was before and it's not now, then the water would fill up to at least the 176 before it would overtop. That then also means that this 176 contour that goes all the way up around the wetland, and this is the town line between Linfield and Lynn right here. You can see that it goes all the way around, the same elevation goes all the way around to number 12 Lookout Terrace. it also goes through the property of Lookout Terrace and into number 10 Lookout Terrace. It goes into 57 Lynbrook Road, the trailhead that we have going into Lynn Woods on the Linfield side, as well as 56 Lynbrook Road. And it actually inundated this septic system at a cost of $50,000 in order to replace it. It also then flows all the way through this little notch, which then flows downstream to Ledge Road. So, sorry, this notch right here. And it flows down through Ledge Road, and we have a pipe. There's a town pipe right here that carries the water down over to Ledge Road and down Ledge Road out onto Salem Street. If that pipe gets over top, then this home gets flooded. So I only want to say that because I apologize. I missed John's initial presentation, and maybe he talked about that, but I really just wanted to show the commission that how interconnected this entire system is. Moving on to what I had done with number 12 Lookout Terrace. This is from number 10 Lookout Terrace, looking back at one of the pipes in the lower reservoir area of open water before it goes into a pipe which travels through number 10. And so you can see by the damage here that it's not going to be an easy solution, but I'm still trying to get in there and find out the condition of this pipe. So understand that I'm still working on that. I had found a drainage study that was from 1998 for the Stony Brook development, and in fact, I've got here's the whole 32-page document, and on page 2, whoops, sorry. So page 1 is the introduction, page 1 of the text. Page 2 has a statement in here from the engineers in this paragraph. The first site investigated was located where the 12-inch corrugated pipe and path are located in the wetland on lot 42A, which is the one that we're talking about. I can show you on the map on the last page. This is the earthen berm, and this lot right here is that actually says 42A when you zoom in on it on a higher resolution image. So back to this paragraph. A topographic survey of this area and the area upgraded to the town line revealed that very little storage in terms of depth could be realized without causing stormwater to back up into the town of Linfield for even frequent storm events, which, according to the rest of their report, appears to be a 2-year storm. They did calculations for 2-year storms, 10-year storms, and 100-year storm events. So it illustrates the potential flooding back into Linfield, even assuming if the pipe was open. So I guess what I'd like to propose is that right now the berm has a large breach through it, and to my knowledge, I haven't heard of any flooding downstream because of this opening. And so, because I'm still working on investigating this other pipe that pipes Cedar Brook, if we would allow that former breach to stay as it is for now, and we can the city of Lynn and myself, we can kind of monitor what that looks like. So I have not been on that site until John McAllister and I met, and I don't intend to go out there without being accompanied by somebody from the city or Lynn Water and Sewer, just in all transparency and fairness to you guys. So that's kind of where it is, and I'll keep updating the commission as to what our progress is. And as I had mentioned before, I have some very sincere interest from National Grid in helping to prevent flooding and beaver dams in this area. So, knowing that that is kind of something that could work out in both of our favors in the future, I'd like to play that out as well. So that's kind of it for me for the information that I've got so far.
Does anybody have any questions?
I think for me, my question is more around, I guess, timeline. Do we have like a timeline for like anything really? I know, like you said about I guess, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's the real difficult question, and I respect that. That's fine to ask that. I can't really give you an answer, and not because I'm trying to avoid anything. It's because it's a much and perhaps John, you spoke to this. It's a much bigger picture, and so to formulate a timeline for whatever the solution is still difficult for me because we don't have all the answers. And part of the answer is going through that property on Lookout Terrace. And that's a big component. And I haven't been able to get into it. I don't know the condition of the pipe. It may need to be replaced. So it's a whole set of other issues that take time. So what I'm trying to do is to get on the site, Lookout Terrace, to assess the pipe and its condition, this fall. I want to get it done before the winter because I don't want to just let it sit for too long. I've made some progress with that property owner, and as you know, it's been, just a bit difficult, but I feel good that we can get in there and take a look at that pipe. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of what I'm going on right now.
I mean, to that point, my concern is more just it's a very difficult and complicated situation, but it's almost like you're gonna decide who's at risk with this situation. I mean, to me, it's very complicated, but it's also very time sensitive because if we do get a really bad storm, it's either going to wash out something downstream, which would impact, City of Lynn, or if it gets put back without just as it was. And I'm not advocating it gets put back as it was, but it gets put back as it was, then it's likely going to clog up and flood up in Linfield. So I think, as Patrick has alluded to in the past, it's got to be a multi-step process, but I would like to see something done at that embankment to rebuild, but again, with some pretty low tech, easier to maintain improvements just to help it so that it flows as it's supposed to. I know he sent me that drainage report I haven't earlier today. I haven't had a chance to review it, so I can't comment on it one way or another. But yeah, it's really just my concern is that we get a good storm, and you saw on the photos. There's just a couple of heavy stones and stuff on that pipe that it could get washed away if we get it really good. Because it is, as he showed in the photo, there is a large tributary area of drainage. So if you get a good, a fast downpour coming through, that could lift up that pipe, move it down, and then it's a different situation. So it's sensitive because we still are in hurricane season. We could get a tropical storm which has those intense downfalls.
Yeah, and so I completely understand that. It's difficult to, so the pipe is in there the way it is, and so water is flowing through it, and of course water is also flowing around it. So technically you could say the opening is a bit bigger. So if it's hard for me to know what kind of flooding might occur downstream with the opening the way it is. Because I also don't know the other structures that were built as part of this 1998 drainage study and what those pipe sizes are. And of course, I'm not an engineer. So I think it's worth maybe if you could review that and see what, for your own well-being and for the city, to know what that water retention is. Because there are two reservoirs. I stopped sharing my screen, but if you recall, but on the last page of that drainage study, there are two other constructed reservoirs with flow limiting pipe in them. And to know what that capacity is, I think is important in all of this. For me, it's difficult to answer, and I think it's worth some investigation.
Anybody else have any questions?
Jamie, I had, if nobody else is speaking, may I address the commission? So Jamie, a few weeks ago, I had sent you a request for meeting minutes, and I know you're busy and I don't want to cause a hassle. I just wanted to have meeting minutes for when, for like the enforcement order and, the next meeting and any other time that Linfield was discussed, because I want to make sure that we're answering the questions. I know there was some, last month it was very difficult for me to make that meeting, so I had to bow out. So I appreciate you pushing it to this month. But Jamie, if that's something you can provide in the coming weeks, that would be very helpful for me.
So just any minutes where Linfield and the enforcement order was discussed?
Yeah, so I don't know if that was October or it was probably your November meeting, right? So probably November, December. And then there was mention that we were discussed at each of the other meetings, but I don't know. I wasn't aware of that. But if there were any requests, I'd like to see what those were. Okay, I appreciate it.
Can I jump in a little bit here? Patrick, I can answer a little bit of that question because I was present at those meetings.
Okay.
The request is also just for an update from the city of Linfield about the status on the project. That's really what we're looking for, not so much any concrete action steps since we're still, I would say, in the discovery phase, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Well, I need to show our Emily, our conservation director, those minutes, so you can send them to me. I didn't want to go through a FOIA request because I know those are a pain, but I just wanted to politely request if you could send them to me. That would be helpful.
Sure.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Anything else I can answer? So I talked last month about, and I talked with John about providing updates more regularly. Can I reach out to you, Jamie, and John McAllister with updates prior to each commission hearing? Is that acceptable? Or, yeah, I guess that's my request.
I guess it would be up to the commission members if they want to have you appear at the September meeting to give a status update to them, to show some progress in this.
So the only thing that I'd say is, like, if I don't have a lot to show in September, maybe October is the date. So if you can be a little bit flexible with me, because getting resources into that property has taken some time, and some of it's out of my control. So I'm trying to push through as best I can. I can touch base with you a couple weeks before your September meeting and kind of let you know where I'm sitting, and then you guys can decide. Is that fair? Or
Procedure-wise, I'm not sure what we need to do. Would we need a motion to continue this matter? I'm not sure,
My only comment would be there's an open enforcement order, so.
especially where there's an open enforcement order.
My opinion is Jim Lamont, Assistant City Solicitor. Given that Mr. Toomey's recusing himself in this matter, I don't believe you have a quorum that could take any action other than at least this evening. It would be up to the chair as far as the agenda for the September meeting.
okay.
So if that's the case, then, Mr. McDonald, you can reach out to me a couple weeks before the September meeting, and if I don't hear from you, I'll reach out to you.
Okay. So in the mean, yeah, that's fine, Jamie. I appreciate that. And I'll keep you updated. So just reach out to me and I'll let you know. Since I didn't get, or Linfield didn't get a notice saying that the enforcement order was ratified, is that something you can send to me?
That,
The
yes.
enforcement order was.
Yes,
What's
it
that?
was voted on and ratified in a meeting, so I can provide the meeting notes to that.
Yeah, okay, because I don't have that, because I know the enforcement order was signed by two members.
That will be in the packet of minutes that I sent to you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to 1 Needham's Landing, DEP file 0380488, the request for certificate of compliance. Is someone here for that? Possibly not. There's an as-built plan with that, I believe.
Hi, Jamie. This is Tom
No
Callan,
plans.
Stantec.
Oh, hi, you are there.
What we're looking for, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, would you like me to make you the presenter?
I guess I wasn't under the impression I would need to be providing any kind of presentation tonight.
Oh, okay. Only if
I-
somebody has questions.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I was under the impression with the letter and request, everything had been completed on our end, and we're just in the process of closing out the permits, and this is part of that process. So yeah, if there's any questions about it, otherwise I have nothing to add.
Okay. Mr. Toomey?
I'm assuming that you're an engineer,
Yes, that's correct.
so basically the statement that we're looking for is that in your opinion, the project as completed complies with the order of conditions that was issued by this commission.
Yes, that's correct. And we provided a statement stating as such with our request for certificate.
And I have that, but we didn't have any plans. That was one of the, and
That
I,
was my mistake, I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. Anyone have any questions or comments? Any motions? That would be a question of whether we're going to issue a certificate of compliance or not.
I was looking through my email, and I'm sorry if I'm not seeing it, but were we forwarded any like before or after pictures?
No pictures.
There were plans that were,
I don't think there were, I think it was just the application and the letter.
Okay, so for the certificate of compliance, we need to be able to make sure it was compliant. So I guess I would ask the applicant how are you proving that you were compliant with, when you applied?
That's all part of the statement. We had on-site inspectional services as this work was part of a larger sewer separation project ongoing in the city. So, we had full-time inspection, monitoring the work as it happened, making sure it was all done in accordance with the contract plans and specifications.
Thank you. Those were my questions. If anyone else has anything else to add.
any motions? Or further
So if
comment?
all the other commission members are okay with it and okay with the, what was provided, I can make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance.
A second?
I can second that.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next is welcome Alexa, our former member. And she's appearing on the request for determination of applicability for the Weston Avenue Floating Bridge Buchanan Bridge project.
Hi, members of the commission. It's good to see some familiar faces. Hope everyone's been well. Jamie, if I could share my screen real quick. All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. One sec.
There we
we
go.
So Alexa Marquis from GPI, representing the applicant, who is Mass DOT District 4 office. So the project, it's located along Buchanan Bridge, Western Ave in Lynn, and it's comprised of 4 different outlet locations that are part of the existing drainage infrastructure. So these 4 outlets, after going into the field and kind of getting an idea of what they look like, they're, for the most part, buried either with sedimentation or debris. And so this project is really looking to establish some erosion controls, such as silt fences and silt booms as well, that are located inside of Floating Bridge Pond, in order to create a limit of work. And that way, anything that is cleaned out of these outlets doesn't get into the waterway. So what the project is planning to do at outlet A is we're going to be jetting with a hydrojet all of the 4 outlets so that we can get flow back through them, as well as cleaning out the catch basins. So this is just a picture of outlet A here, and it's located adjacent to the parking lot plaza. Here's another picture just of an overhead, and you can see how erosion and any type of rainfall is kind of creeping in over here during high precipitation events. This is outlet B. So again, we have a lot of sedimentation buildup with some vegetation. Here's another image here. So this one, there would be required clearing and grubbing just so that we can get that sedimentation out. This is outlet C. There's an established ditch line here already, but the problem is that it's still a little overgrown and there is some sedimentation buildup. It's just another picture of outfall C. So again, the project is just trying to reestablish this ditch line and then also hydrojet the drainage pipe and then the outlet. And outfall D is a little tricky. It's completely overgrown with vegetation. It was a little impossible to actually find in the field. This is another picture. This is closer to the roadway at outfall D, and as you can see, any type of water that's coming through here is starting to push down, and it actually moved one of these stones for the retaining wall right here. And then there's, you can see a little bit more washout at outfall D. So the plans that we provided, I apologize, they are outdated. It's actually dated 1921. And so this is just a rough idea of what we're trying to get done. So clearing out these catch basins, hydrojetting the outlets at all 4 of them, establishing the erosion and sedimentation controls. That way, anything that does come out of them will go into the waterway. It will be cleaned up, and then it'll be hauled off-site. So if there are any questions that the commission may have, I'd love to answer them.
Alexa, I'd like to make a comment and then a question, just to let the members know that because the project is proposed by the Mass DOT, it's exempt from local bylaws, so there's no 25 or 30-foot no disturb zone involved in this process. That's my comment. My question is, Alexa, I know that I've been down there and I've seen the drains in the area. What I wasn't too sure of was, are these drains just collecting street runoff from the catch basins, or are they running from the higher, I guess that would be the north side to the south side of the pond, collecting flow.
Right. So I believe it's the majority is coming from Buchanan Bridge and the roadway. However, I don't know how far up in elevation it does catch, but that's definitely something that I can look into.
Are they through pipes? That's kind of it. Do you know that, or is that kind of what we're, do they run?
I'm not entirely. Oh, go ahead.
Do they run from the one side of the pond to the other, and then the catch basins feed into them? Because I'm just wondering what the impact will be if that is the case. Once these are cleared out, how low the elevation will go on the what I think would be the north side of the pond, and how much impact that would have. I'm certainly in favor of getting all of the work done there. I know how much that area floods the street.
Yeah, right. And I think for this project, it's my understanding that we just want to clear out the outlets first and see what type of improvement we do get with that. And then if it does come down to needing a bigger project overall with more scoping and a better survey, that's definitely going to be incorporated in the future.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? I have one more comment, but I don't want to interrupt anyone else's chain of thought. Alexa, basically, you're requesting a negative determination, and I want to just kind of get this on the record, based on the belief and the fact that the work as proposed is considered maintenance work, and that all the activities and impacts would be considered temporary. That pretty accurate? I think I kind of stole that from the narratives, but I'm just trying to get it on the record.
Yep, that is correct.
Thank you. And again, this is my final question. Has any investigation been done of the possible down, I guess we'd call them down pond impacts? I know you mentioned outlets besides the ones that are involved here, but was any kind of an investigation done of the possible impacts on the outlet that's at the other, the far end of the pond down towards Eastern Avenue?
I'm not sure I know which one you're asking about.
Stream outlet from the pond itself.
Not to my knowledge. I don't believe there's been an investigation for that.
Any further questions or comments or a motion?
Just wanted to thank you, Mike, for clarifying that because it is Mass DOT that's requesting, they're not subject to the 25 or 30-foot no disturb zone. So I would be comfortable with issuing a negative determination of applicability. So I can make that motion.
Is there a second?
I can second it.
And a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Alexa.
Alexa, nice to see you.
It's nice to see you all too. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye. Okay, next, the notice of intent for 330 Linway Public Walkway Project, DEP file number 0380511. And there's Joshua Zoll.
Yep. My name is Joshua Zoll from GZAG Environmental. I am here representing Clock Tower Development Corp. I also have Ed Schatz here from Clock Tower. Let's see. If you could allow me to present. Let's see if I can do that. There we Okay, let me know if you're seeing my screen. All right, looks like it's working. Okay, so we've submitted this notice of intent application pursuant to the Wetlands Protection Act and the Lynn Concom Wetlands Protection Bylaws. The project, as you can see here, is 330 Lynn Way. It's located on the shores of Lynn Harbor. The shoreline here consists of a soil berm with a revetment slope on the seaward face on the southern end of the project site. On the northern end of the project site, there is a revetment slope with a concrete block retaining wall that sits atop the revetment there. The property is used for shipping and trucking, and the area behind the building between the shoreline and the building is used for truck passage for loading docks and the likes. The proposed project is to construct a public walkway that extends from the breakwater residential area to the north, along the shoreline, all the way to the south, to where the EDIC is proposing to construct a similar public walkway that I actually presented back before you a few months ago for that project. And the reason for this project is the project site has a current Chapter 91 license. It's license number 6024 that was issued back in November of 1996. And as part of that that Chapter 91 license, the property owner was required to install and construct a public walkway across the shoreline. So this project is really to bring this Chapter 91 license into compliance for the property site. So, like I said, this is a public walkway project that's going to be constructed along the shoreline between the water's edge and the building. The intent is to sort of maintain the berm as much as possible on the southern end, and as that we transition going south to north. And trying to keep as much space as possible for the trucking facility, the trucking operations between the building. So as you travel south to north, the public walkway is going to be constructed out of porous pavement. It's going to be on the paved way, and then it will transition into the berm. At that point, we're proposing the construction of a small retaining wall to hold back the soil berm, so that the public walkway can be off of the traveled way. As we move south to north, we will have a transition again into the area where the existing concrete block retaining wall is, where we're going to be installing a new cast-in-place concrete retaining wall. All of this work that we're proposing was cleared with Chapter 91. We've had a lot of back and forth with the Chapter 91 reviewers to make sure that everything we're presenting here today will bring the site into compliance with the existing Chapter 91 license. So they've had their eyes on this from the start. Between the site lighting, we're proposing the public access, we're proposing the benches and trash receptacles, the plantings, and all of that. So the project site, if you reviewed the notice of intent on the project site, we have coastal bank, we have land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is basically the majority of the project area. We're within the 100-foot buffer zone, the 30-foot no build zone. So the majority of this is just the installation of the concrete retaining wall and the installation of the public walkway. We are also requesting a waiver for work within the 30-foot no build zone, because obviously this is directly within that area. But it is a project to provide public access across the shoreline. The majority of the work is intended for land-based equipment. There's no intent to go down onto the mudflat that's seaward of the shoreline in this area. And the contractors will have proper erosion control measures on the site, staging areas, around material stockpiles, and just general site areas. That's the majority of the project. I guess I would open it up to questions if you have any, and I will do my best to answer them.
Mr. Zoll, I just wanted to ask the members, interrupt at this point. I would like to entertain a motion either in favor, or depending on what's proposed, for granting the waiver, so we get that out of the way to begin with.
I can make that motion. I can make a motion
zone.
to have a waiver for the 100-foot no disturb site.
It'd be the 25-foot.
25.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Oh,
So they're doing a motion on the waiver of, your request for a waiver of the 25-foot no disturb zone. And the motion was made by Jocelyn, and
Did we get a
it's
second?
going to be seconded, I believe, by Brenda.
I can second it, yeah.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 I think I can hear again. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Hopefully,
Okay.
you were able to hear anything I was saying.
We heard you.
Okay, we granted the waiver, so you can proceed with your presentation.
Okay, excellent. I think that was the majority of the presentation, just going through the process of describing the site. Hopefully, everyone heard that.
We did. So
We did, yep.
does anybody have any questions about the project?
I have
Go ahead.
two. One is the wall, the retaining wall that's being proposed. Is that going to be basically the same elevation of the existing but damaged wall that is on site now?
Yeah, it's generally to the same elevation. I think in areas the existing retaining wall is depressed, but generally we're holding it around elevation 11. In some areas, I think the existing wall is down to elevation 10, and then upwards of elevation 11 as it transitions.
And
But the intent is to keep that wall right at 11, elevation 11.
disturbances within the bank itself, are they going to be, could you describe those as far as the construction of the walkway? Is the walk?
Yep. So there, I can let me reshare my screen, and I can bring up the drawings there. Let's see. All right. So this is our typical cross section on the southern end of the project site, where the walkway is going to be proposed on the pavement. As part of the Chapter 91 process of their review, they wanted to maintain sight lines, and they were very adamant about maintaining sight lines from the walkway so that pedestrians walking along the path could look out into the harbor. So as a result of that, the berm is planned to be taken down to elevation 11 across the board to match the top of the proposed retaining wall. But in the area here, where there's no retaining wall, obviously it's just going to be a removal of the top portion of that berm. And then as we transition through, there will be minimal impacts. They're likely to use road boxes or other sheeting to limit the impact to the berm itself as they're excavating to install the concrete wall. And then similarly, as we move north, same thing, some sort of sheeting or temporary sheeting or road box to pull out the existing concrete block retaining wall, limited amount of the revetment so that they can install the concrete wall.
And the pavement is going to be pervious, you said, and in your opinion, would there be likely any increase in, or decrease, I should say, any loss of, any incremental loss of flood storage on the site?
I don't believe so. For the most part, we're maintaining a similar elevation of the walkway based on the existing grade. The area is prone to flooding as it is, and really we're not really changing all that much from a flood capacity or flood storage on the site.
Any further questions, comments? Any motions? Jamie, we have nobody online or anything, right? Always forget that now. On comments, there's nobody waiting online.
Nobody.
Okay. I can make the motion to,
Issue a standard order of conditions.
yes.
I can second it.
Second? Danielle,
Thank
second?
you. Danielle?
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion
Thank you.
passes.
Thank you very much, Commission members. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thanks.
You as well.
Okay, next on the agenda is the notice of intent on Hanson Street, and they do have a DEP file number. I just didn't have it at the time of the agenda, and I'm not sure who's going to present.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi.
Kate Shasta from AECOM, representing the MWRA. I'll be presenting
Okay.
along with Peter Grasso. So if you could allow me to screen share, we'll both be speaking.
All set.
Awesome. Okay. And we'll go full screen. Okay, how's that look?
I can see it, Kate. I think it looks good.
Great, thank you. Peter, you want to start us off?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. I'm Pete Grasso. I'm the program manager at the MWRA, and the Section 56 waterline pipeline replacement project is one of my projects. So I'm going to take you through the first couple of slides for a quick overview, and then I'll hand it back over to Kate, and she can discuss the project, more in detail and discuss the NOI. So, for those of you not familiar with the MWRA, we're a quasi-state ratepayer-funded agency who we're dedicated to protecting the public and the environmental health. We provide wholesale water and wastewater services to 3.1 million people in 61 communities in Massachusetts. On the water side, we get our highly protected water from the Quabbin and Wachusett reservoirs, and we provide an average of 200 million gallons a day to 53 of our water communities. And on the wastewater side, we collect and treat an average of 350 million gallons a day of wastewater for 43 communities at Deer Island Treatment Plant.
Jamie, did you
Next,
want to
Kate.
jump in and say something?
I just had a question. MWRA is not a state agency that's entitled to exemption from the local bylaws. Is that correct? I'm reading it here but I just wasn't too sure. I know you kind of called
Well,
it.
we are in, just like with, you were discussing with MassDOT when it's a maintenance, project. But I think Kate can speak, to more of why we're filing the NOI.
Yeah, it is our understanding that we are not exempt from the local bylaws as we are not a state agency. So, next slide.
Yep. So the MWRA Section 56 water pipeline was constructed in 1934, and it basically runs, through Revere. It did go over the General Edwards Bridge and then up through Lynn on the Lynnway, we basically had to take a section of that pipe that was on the General Edwards Bridge and take it out of service because it was had severe corrosion and was leaking, excessively. So we took that down in 2018. And this project will allow us to put that section back in service, and that will provide water to the upper communities up in the northern extra high, Nahant, Swampscott, Saugus, and Linfield. And I believe so. Lynn has 1 meter. That's a connection right over on right off the Linway on meter 208. Next. So when we complete this project, we'll be reconnecting, the existing section 56 on the Revere side to the existing pipeline on the Lynn side. And that will eliminate, so there's a dead end on both ends at the General Edge Bridge right now. This pipeline is crucial to protecting public health and environmental health, and it will provide redundancy for fire flows. Should the pipeline break up north beyond Lynn's meter 208, once this pipeline's in service, we would be able to supply water up to meter 208 coming from Revere. It'll also increase the water pressure and improve the water quality in the line, eliminating those dead ends. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Kate to give you some more details. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Peter. Also briefly, we have some other folks on the project on the call with us tonight. Julie Sullivan and Kathleen Cullen from MWRA, and then Jen Doyle-Breen and Jim Sullivan from AECOM. So some more background. As Pete mentioned, Section 56 is a 9-year-old pipe that is 20 inches in diameter for the majority of its length. We are proposing this project is to replace the section that was removed from the General Edwards Bridge back in 2017, and installing this new section of pipe underneath the Saugus River via a method called horizontal directional drilling. This is a method of pipeline installation developed specifically to avoid surface impacts and installing pipeline underneath obstructions like rivers and other environmentally sensitive areas. Additionally, we will be installing pipeline within existing roadways on both sides of the river. In Lynn, that's Hanson Street, and that will be a traditional open cut installation. And before arriving at the project as designed today, the MWRA evaluated several replacement alternatives, which I can get into in a little bit. Here is a figure that shows you the location of the project. We're oriented north is that way, so it's a bit tilted, but you can see this is the Linway, that's the General Edwards Bridge. The yellow dotted line is the proposed HDD pathway underneath the Saugus River. And then you can also see the other project components, which I'll explain. Briefly, as I mentioned, horizontal directional drilling is a trenchless method for pipeline installation. And for the majority of its length, the pipeline beneath the Saugus River will be 40 feet below the seafloor. So to break it down a bit further, there's 4 major components to this project. It's the cut and cover pipeline installation within Hanson Street, and then the trenchless installation of its 2,800 linear feet of 30-inch diameter pipeline underneath the Saugus River. And then additionally, to facilitate the HDD, we need a pipe string laydown area, which is the length of the pipe, and that would go along Riley Way Extension, so a bit to the north of Hanson Street down here. And lastly, the extraction of up to 30 timber piles from the Lynn seawall, and then the subsequent restoration thereof to present-day conditions. Again, more on that in a bit. Some more context to give you a sense of what the site looks like today. We are looking towards the General Edwards Bridge back here, facing south, and then to the left of this image is Hanson Street, and then the image on the right is looking down Hanson Street. You see a development that is currently under construction on the corner of the Linway and Hanson Street. These photos are of the entry point staging area. The pipeline being installed via HDD will be entering from the Lynn side, hence the pipe string layout area. And right now, this area is vegetated, mostly with Phragmites. And below it is Riley Way Extension, as you can see, in a highly degraded condition. We will be using an area just to the north, just upslope of Riley Way Extension for the pipe string laydown area. And this set is giving you a sense of what the access to the timber pile removal area looks like right now. And then this is the seawall down here on the lower left at the high tide, in the vicinity where we will be needing to remove these piles. And then on the right, this is the piles, the seawall at low tide when they are exposed. The alternatives I mentioned, here is a diagram that shows what was considered and evaluated for different levels of impact, environmental impact being one of them. The proposed route that we are designing the project off of is this orange one right here that goes from the entry point in at the end of Hanson Street over to the Point of Pines Yacht Club in Revere. This is a table from the NOI that summarizes our temporary resource area impacts. Most of the project site is in land subject to coastal storm flowage. We will also have temporary impacts to coastal bank, all because of the need to access the timber piles. The timber piles pose a obstruction to the HDD boring as it goes underneath the river. So again, I think I can show that a bit better, the project plans, but that's what that impact is. Also associated with that is coastal bank 100-foot buffer. Coastal beach also to access the timber piles, and a portion of the pipe string layout is overlapping with the beach, and then the 100-foot buffer of coastal beach as well. We did not put in the NOI a request for an exemption on the 25-foot no build zone, but we will be requesting that verbally in this call. And I'm happy to provide that written if the commission requests. To talk through the performance standards, I'll kind of go through these because there's a lot here, but happy to come back and discuss in more detail. There are none for land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal beach. The excavation is limited to all that is required for the timber pile removal. We'll be excavating the material and stockpiling it on site to be replaced immediately following removal. We'll install sedimentation and erosion control measures on site. And then we have a, oh, Jen, did you need to say something?
I was just, Jamie looks like she has her hand up, so I don't know if Jamie would ask her
I'm so
question.
sorry. Yeah, of course.
I think it just went up, yeah.
Just like the last time, I think it would be good for the commission to take a vote on the granting of the waiver, because if we don't grant the waiver, there's nothing going to be done. And I mean, I'm assuming we're going to have the vote in favor, but I would entertain a motion to grant the waiver upon receipt of a written request. If someone wants to make that motion.
I can go ahead and make that motion.
And do we have a second?
I can second it.
Oh,
Got it?
All those in favor?
hi.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
passed. Thank you. So, continue. Sorry about that.
Oh, all good. Thank you. So we were talking about the performance standards for coastal beach and specifically the plan for the seawall restoration. So as I mentioned, the timber piles, up to 30 of them, pose obstructions to the HDD pathway. And so they will be extracted, 10 vertical piles and then 20 battered piles. And following that, the vertical piles will be reinstalled to kind of maintain in line with the bulkhead and restore it to the conditions in which the contractor finds it when they go to do the work at the site. Coastal bank, as I mentioned, those impacts are temporary. We are taking measures to ensure the existing topography of the site does not change once the construction is done. That will include the application of geotextile fabric and riprap to sort of artificially regrade the bank. The vegetation on the bank will need to be cleared, but we will not grub it. So the roots there will continue to do the work that they do to keep that in place. And lastly, following construction, this riprap and geotextile fabric will be removed by hand. We also have land under water and land under ocean. The impacts to these two resources areas are all the drilling of the HDD bore path. So nothing actually on the surface, but just completely below the riverbed. In any case, we do have a frac out management plan, and we'll be employing the same sedimentation control measures. But to reiterate, there are no surface level impacts to either of these resource areas. This figure shows the locations of the wetland resource areas in the vicinity of the project. Here's Hanson Street. Here's the route we'll need to use to access the timber piles, which will be removed over here. And then the staging area for the HGD entry, and then the pipe string laydown area that goes down Riley Way Extension and on to Riley Way. This shows the extent of land subject to coastal storm flowage. Okay, so to touch on impact minimization, I didn't mention this yet, but the only structures that are being proposed by this project are just manholes that will be at grade within the existing roadway. We're not proposing any above grade structures. The HED, as I mentioned, also minimizes environmental impacts to the Saugus River and resource areas. Additionally, the MWRA will continue to work with community and stakeholders to minimize traffic and seasonal impacts. For impact mitigation, we do have a traffic management plan that will maintain access to emergency services. The HDD work itself is restricted to the off-season. The same sedimentation and erosion control measures. The frac out management plan will be implemented. A waste and trash management plan will be implemented. All refueling will occur away from resource areas, and dust mitigation will take place in the form of watering. So in addition to this order of conditions we are requesting from the Lynn Conservation Commission, we will also be going before the City of Lynn Highway Engineering Department for a street opening permit for the work in Hanson Street. And then to wrap things up, I'm going to quickly go through the project plans. Here's the intersection of the Lynn and Hanson Street. Our pipeline is here. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but it's, yeah, kind of starts in the intersection and then moves to the north side of the street, continues along the north side of the street. And then once we get closer to the shoreline, it will clip towards the HDD pathway, tie in there. This is a plan that shows the profile of the HDD pathway going underneath the Saugus River. And you can see how deep it is beneath the river bed itself on all locations except for the entry and exit locations. The staging area, the pipe string laydown area that goes along Riley Way Extension, and then the timber pile removal. There are two locations because the vertical piles, as you can see, will intersect with the bore path here because it's just vertically, but then over here, the battered piles are at an angle, so that's why we need to remove them here as that they're due to their depth, their assumed depth of 60 feet, which of course the contractor will verify on the site before commencing with removal, will intersect with the bore path in approximately this location. A bit closer view, details that show the seawall. And yep, that's all we have, and we will take questions as the commission has them.
I do have one question, and that is, could you describe the process where the soil would be collected on the shore and exactly how long the storage of the soil will be there and exactly, what the extent of that pile would be and what the plans are. I know you commented on that, but if you could just elaborate a little on that.
Kate, do you want me to take that one?
Sure.
So I'm Jim Sullivan with AECom, the project manager for the design. So the horizontal directional drill process is actually a multi-pass process, and it occurs from both ends, both Lynn and Revere. So, roughly half the total excavated volume would be in each portal. It is a containerized process. It's not actually soil because it needs a drilling fluid. So it has to stay in a container. It does get tested and then removed off site. It's assumed to be inert because it's, geologic marine clays mixed with the driller's bentonite, but it will be containerized, tested, removed off site, and disposed of in accordance with, applicable rules, regulations, and laws. Hopefully it's good for landfill cover somewhere. But if not, it'll go somewhere else that's lawful and approved based on its characterization.
The neighborhood. But thank you. So can I make a comment and see if you agree with it? And that is that, so basically there would be no great loss of flood storage in that immediate area because the soil would be being containerized and removed on a regular basis? Is that accurate?
That is correct. If the question is there going to be any loss of flood storage? No, because we're not changing grade of anything in the area. The void that gets removed by the HDD process gets replaced with an HDD pipe. And so at the end of the day, the ground, the topography, the ground surface are all remain unchanged from what exists today. So no loss of flood storage.
I'm trying to get the point of how much space that stockpile would basically take up, and if that's a concern, and if there is a coastal storm. I know I read some of the notes. Coastal storm plan for that pile, so we don't want it during a major storm washing all over the place. So that's if it's containerized, I don't think that is a concern, but I just wanted, if possible, to get your comment about whether that is a concern.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything's a concern. The contractor does have requirements to batten down the hatches, so to speak, if a storm is forecast and impending. I mean, it will be an active construction site with equipment and such, but there's not going to be an appreciable volume of a stockpile because they have to containerize it. And the contractor is not allowed to let it stay loose because it's a very wet material. They have to containerize and get it off site almost immediately. If it takes, say, 3 weeks to go back and forth with the multiple reaming passes, they're going to be moving the material off site as they generate it within reason. I mean, it's not immediately, but it would be days, not weeks of stockpiles.
Basically, they're prepared. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Any motions?
I can make the motion.
Motion first to issue a standard order of conditions.
Yes.
We have a second?
I can second that, Jamie.
And a vote? All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the next on our agenda, which was very long tonight, was 35 Reed Street. I sent them a letter with the remote and the in-person contact so that they could appear tonight, but apparently they didn't want to. So I don't know, I could send it again certified, the same letter?
That might be a good idea.
All right.
Either that, I mean, it's the wish of the commission, it's either that or issue an enforcement order. It's a very limited disturbance, but it is jurisdictional.
So
I don't know if they intend to pave it or what their plans are.
do you want to try a certified letter with a stronger wording instead of just suggesting? I can add a little threat that an enforcement order. I don't know if I sent you the letter. I meant to, but I probably didn't. It just says to Jason Giuliano, a current owner, 35 Reed Street, to the owner of 35 Reed Street, please be advised that it was voted at the last meeting of the Lynn Conservation Commission held on July 16th to request that you appear before the next Conservation Commission meeting on Tuesday, August 20th, either in person or remote, to discuss certain activities conducted on the property at 35 Reed Street. So maybe that wasn't strong enough. Probably not strong enough.
Sounds strong to me, but
Sometimes when they get this, they come into the office though, but nothing. So I'll try a little
I
stronger
agree
one.
that,
Go ahead, sorry.
yeah, I agree that it could be like, the consequences, which may be an enforcement order with a fine of up to blah, blah, blah.
I agree too. This one was mushy.
that, we want to make that in the form of a motion, or I think it would be good to do that.
Sure.
And get a second.
Okay. So I think Jocelyn made the motion. And we'll take a second on that.
I'll second it.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Danielle.
Danielle. All those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Brenda, I'm sorry for harassing you. I knew you were away because you always respond. But thank you for logging in tonight because without you, we couldn't have done this.
Yes, thank you very much.
So
Yeah,
we
no
need
worries.
to confirm updates.
I was just gonna say I was on vacation and now I'm on work travel, so it's been kind of crazy. But I didn't want. I think it was last August that we had a little bit of debacle, so I didn't want that to happen again.
We did, but we're down a member, so we hopefully they'll give us another member soon. Anything else?
Just my favorite motion. Is somebody going to make it?
Motion to adjourn.
That's the one.
That's the one.
And a second?
All right.
Oh, I can do a second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Bye.
Adjourn. Thank you very much.
Have a great month, everyone.
See you in September.
See you all in September.
Thank you. Bye. Safe travels, Brenda.
Yes.